Welcome to Mentoring Moments. Mentoring Moments is a sub-series of the E-commerce Edge podcast. It is composed of clips taken from Jason's one-to-one and group mentorship sessions. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the E-commerce Edge podcast with me, Jason Greenwood, your host. And it is my pleasure to welcome our next amazing guest to the pod. This is a man who I think I've been trying to get onto the podcast for around a year, and he finally said yes. So I feel extremely privileged to welcome Mr. Stanley Henry from The Attention Seeker to the pod. Welcome, Stanley.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Jason. Good to be here. Sorry.
You're a hard man to pin down, bro.
Oh, we
You're
got it.
seriously a hard man to pin down.
Yeah. It's been a busy year. But we got it.
I love it. I love it. And look, you are a bit internet famous, maybe not quite to the level of Gary Vee, but working hard at it.
Trying
And
to.
good on you, man. I tell you, I've been following you for quite some time on the old interwebs. You definitely are pushing pretty hard at the old social thing and hiring people to help run your brand. And you might only have 2 people working on Brand Stanley today, but who knows? Give it another year or 2, and you might have 20 people working on it like Gary Vee does.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. It's definitely the goal. Just keep on scaling it up. And I think for me, that brand is the thing I can scale the most. I don't have a SaaS product to do it. So I'm going to try to scale the brand.
And as I see it, you're your own best guinea pig.
Yeah,
Because at the
100%.
end of the day, you can trial and test things with your personal brand that, hey, cool, when I see something that works, then we can processize that and bring a system to that then we can perhaps adapt and scale alongside our customers. I'm not going to use them as the guinea pig. I'll use me and my personal brand as the guinea pig in the meantime. Yeah?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. We always talk about us being case study number one. We don't sell anything that we haven't already done for ourselves. So yeah, absolutely the play. Everything we do, even if we could do something else, if we haven't proven it for ourselves first, we won't sell it.
Yeah, amazing stuff. And look, before we get into exactly what the attention seeker is and does, and we'll get into the nitty-gritty of that, don't worry, but how did you get to be in this incredible space of digital? I wouldn't it's interesting. I wouldn't necessarily look at your background and go for, because your first industry that you worked in was hospitality,
Yeah.
right? That was the first industry I worked in
Oh, cool.
before I got into the digital space more than 25 years ago. I worked in restaurants and bars and managed restaurants and bars. And it was an amazing, incredible industry with incredibly shitty hours and incredibly antisocial hours if you didn't have friends and significant others that were working in the same industry.
Yeah.
And when I got a chance to get into digital and go adulting for the first time, it was quite the change from hospitality.
Yeah, absolutely. Hospitality for me has been, I'm so grateful I did it first and as a career path, because it taught me so much that I don't think you necessarily learn from a lot of other industries unless you're forced to. But in hospitality, it just comes naturally. Like the people skills that I have because of it, like they're just second to none from what you'd learn in like a corporate environment. Like even just working in this business, we're a pretty good culture, I would say, and we got a pretty good team who loves to interact, but still that culture and the interaction you have with people is still far less than what I'd have in hospitality. And the amount of people I had to talk to, the amount of things, 3 a.m. cleaning up vomit, there's some stuff you had to do and see people at their worst, but you also see them at their best. It all taught me a lot about business, which I also think is something not to be underestimated. I had a really good education in just entrepreneurship and business acumen that you wouldn't necessarily think you'd get from hospital, but because it's a hard industry. You're constantly grinding. You're constantly trying to find new ways to make a dollar. You're trying to find new ways to market yourself. You're trying to find new ways to save some costs. It's a constant battle because the margins are so slim. Every dollar counts and you got to do it. So you're really fine-tuned into business because of it. And that's helped me immensely in this business to allow me to grow it the way I have.
And let's fast forward to you starting the Attention Seeker nearly 6 years ago now. What made you think, look, I'm going to start a digital social agency, digital marketing agency, whatever you want to call yourself? How did you decide, yeah, I think I can do that, and I think I can do it better than anyone else, perhaps, at least in my region.
Yeah.
So let's give it a crack.
Yeah, it was a bit of happenstance. It just came about because I knew I wanted to start my own business. I left hotels. I got tired of making other people rich, and I thought maybe I could do this for myself. I moved back to New Zealand. I started to put some roots in. I started to build my brand on LinkedIn. I knew a bit about LinkedIn because I'd been using it in hotels to drive corporate sales. So I'd already
Yes.
understood the platform. And then in 2019, moved back to New Zealand. I started building the brand. 6 months later, down hit. We all got locked down for it. And then all the B2B companies and professional services people that I had met through LinkedIn, had been watching my content, started reaching out and saying, hey, Stan, can you help us with our LinkedIn? Like, we can't get our network. Can you give us help? I've seen that you're doing it well. Can you help it for us? And so that was really the moment where I was like, okay, the hotel industry has been decimated. I don't know if can go get a job back there. I don't know where my next dollar is going to come from. I've just convinced my wife to give up our perfect life in Melbourne and move back to New Zealand. And this has happened. And I've just got to figure something out. So I just took any money I could at the beginning, essentially just saying, yeah, look, I don't want to coach you on it. That's not what I want to do, but I have some freelancers I'd hired to help me with my stuff when I first moved back. So I can do this for you. And yeah, luckily a bunch of people trusted me. They said, yeah, let's give it a go. And every time I brought on a new customer, I looked at who I could bring into the business myself as expertise to build it. But really that moment it was May 11th, the first client, Jason. So actually his name was Jason as well, signed on. And that was it. I was like, okay, there's something here. I'm going to run with it because I've got nothing else to do. And I know how to run a business and I know how to lead people. So I just need to go find some people who can help me do this thing even better. And that's really the crux of the thing. I've never tried to pretend I was the best at marketing, the best at social, the best at anything. That I knew how to be a great leader and a great business owner. So I just went out and found people who could do it for me. And that's how it started.
Wow, what a journey! And eating your own dog food feels like it came naturally
Yeah.
to you from day dot
Yeah.
to be like, okay, cool. Look, I've found some modicum of success here. Let's spin this up into a business where I think I can help other people at scale.
Yeah.
If I can bring a big enough team together with a diverse enough range of skills to help a broad range of people, then I will always have the potential to win clients,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly. Couldn't say it better myself. Yeah.
And the funny thing is that I've been perhaps slightly hard on you at times because of some of the posts that I've been pretty blunt with
Yeah.
you
Yeah. I
on
love
some of your posts on LinkedIn because you're a straight shooter and I'm a straight shooter. And so of course I'm going to call a spade.
Yeah.
You make what I would call a lot of complaining posts, but they're not complaining. They're complaining, but they're not complaining. They're complaining about all the good problems we have in business or all the good challenges we face as entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
You're really transparent about those challenges. You're really bluntly and brutally honest about both the highs and the lows of entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
You don't sugarcoat things. I'd like to think I'm not a sugarcoater either. And a lot of the things you complain about are growth related.
Yeah.
A lot of things you're like, okay, cool. We're going to hit this target because I've set this target and I think we can hit it. But it means I'm going to need to hire these 3 new people. And it means we're going to have to move into a larger office building. And it means we're now going to have a presence in 2 countries. And now it means I'm going to be maybe having a nexus of business there. Just, geez, do I actually set up a base of operations in New York or don't I? I do absorb
Yeah.
more of your content than maybe you think. It comes from an informed
Yeah.
and caring and loving place.
Yeah.
But I've been maybe not necessarily critical, but questioning and saying, why hypergrowth then? Why if this is so stressful and if this is so hard and if it feels like you're on the razor's edge every single month of matching resource with demand,
Mhm.
then why not just slow sales
Yeah.
down a little bit
Yeah.
and try to just allow the resourcing to catch up with the demand? And you're like, because that's not the way I'm wired.
Yeah.
That's not the way I'm fucking built. So I don't have an answer
You-
for you other
you're-
than unless I've got something hard to go after,
Yeah.
then it doesn't excite me.
Yeah. And look, that's absolutely what it is. Like I I could slow down. I could. And I think for me, if I was to ever slow down, or if I was going to slow down, if that decision was going to be made by me, it would be to I'd go work with someone else. And the reason why is I actually don't mind working under other people. I don't mind working inside of systems. I'm actually quite good at navigating corporate life and understanding how I can fit in. And I don't mind the way I'm transparent and straight shooter in real life. I'm like that in corporate. Like when I was in corporate and hotels, it was the same. I said what I said. People knew me for what I was. They knew my value. I had good leaders. They put me in the right spot. And I knew I could climb. Like I could have kept continuing to climb. I became a general manager pretty young and I was the youngest in my cohort of, I guess, my peer group in that. So I knew that I was going to climb and I could become a CEO of a large company one day. And for me, that's the slowing down. That's the less risky option for me because it's someone else is paying my salary. I can cruise. I can go home at the end of the day, whatever. If I'm going to go and take on all the risk of a business, because even going slow in business is still risky.
Is a
It's
risky.
still
Yeah, it
risky,
is.
right? And look, there's risks in a career like corporate. You can just be made redundant, but you can go find another job. There's plenty of them. But you fail at a business, that's pretty hard on the person. That's a big loss. It's a bigger loss than getting made redundant. And you can rebuild a new business, but it's really hard. You don't get instant money straight away like you do when you go get a new job. So for me, if I'm going to go for a business and build that at this stage of my life and career, I still got the energy. I'm still really excited by it as well. I'm not like cynical about it yet, which I know that might come one day. Like I saw my dad go through that process as well. When he got cynical in his businesses and he was, oh gosh, what's it all about? I'm not there. I'm really energized. It pumps me up. I express these feelings publicly because I know that when I was younger, or even other people I talk to, you feel isolated as a business owner. You feel like you're the only one going through the world of hurt that you're going through. And I just wanted other people to go, you're not. Like we all go through it. We just need to normalize the conversation so we don't have such pressure on us. And actually by talking about these things, it relieves the stress of me. I'm like, okay, I can let it out. I can articulate the problem. And once I can articulate a problem, I can solve the problem. And actually, like sometimes, and you yourself, Jason, like you say you've been blunt to me, but I actually love all of that, and I love it when like, you've done it with me and other people. Like I can have a go back and forth with you because that's what I want from it. I actually want that out of people. I love it when people like yourself go at me in the comments with, in a constructive way that you do it as well. It's like you question me, right? I want that. I want people to go, but what about this? What about that? I don't just dismiss it. I'll fight. I'm the devil's advocate all the time. I'll fight it, fight every time. But actually, what I'm doing is I'm going, okay, let me just measure this. Let me understand what he's actually trying to say. Where is he pushing my buttons? Okay, cool. Why did that push my buttons? Why did it do that? If it didn't push my buttons, I wouldn't care. So if I do care, why? Okay, and then I can adjust and can reshift and stuff. And so actually, if we think about the business now, although I'm going for broke still, I'm still going for everything, pushing it. And definitely in a point in the business now where I've said to the senior leadership team, by the end of this financial year, which for us finishes 31st of March, 2026, and we'll have 3 months worth of runway. I always had a month runway,
Yeah.
raise it in, but we'll get to 3 months. And I said that because one, people like yourself were like, why so close? Like, why put everything at risk like that? And then what that actually said to me is, I'm no longer putting myself at risk. I'm putting all my team at risk because their livelihoods, their children, their mortgages, they're all at risk because I'm being an idiot essentially, and I need to protect them as well. And actually, they're the thing I care the most about inside this business. Those, all those things that happen, and when I talk online in public, and I do hear it, my reason for doing it was because if I'm not going to be risky, then I'll just go get a job. So instead, I'm going to be as risky as I can. But as time goes on, I started to realize it's not just my risk anymore. It's a lot of other people's, and I need to come to the party with them and help ease some of their concerns, especially the guys with mortgages and kids.
Yeah, and look, I think that's a thing too, in the sense that, oh, I actually now really I care about these people as if maybe not quite like a family, but maybe more like a team, maybe like more like a sports
Yeah.
team. I don't ever really like the analogy in business of family
Ah, yeah.
because you do weird things with family that you wouldn't hopefully ever do with team members. But think of it more like a sports team, a high performance sports team. And you're like, hey, I wouldn't, if I was the captain of a rugby team, I wouldn't keep running my star player into the ground after they had an injury just so that we could win the next game, knowing that it's probably going to take them out of the sport for 6 months or 12 months worth of rehab. I wouldn't do that. It would be stupid. It would be stupid to do that, right? It would be an unnecessary risk when instead maybe I can give them 1 or 2 games off. They get well and then they get healthy and then they come back on the field and they're ready to bring their A game. So I almost think of it like a team like that where you're going, okay, there's no point in running these people into the ground because at the end of the day, I need them to be able to perform for a long time, not just for the short term. And I need to be able to unburden them mentally and emotionally to be able to do their best work. And if it means I got to take on a little more stress to be able to allow them to do that, then that's just what it means because I've chosen this life. They didn't.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. I think that all the time with the team as well. Like I love your analogy of sports team because I also don't like the analogy of family. Family, we don't get to choose. There's not a choice. So we're stuck with them. But
Yes.
with your team and my team, both ways, we get to choose each other. I have a choice if I will hire them. They have a choice if they want to take this role as well. And so a big part of as a team, like that transparency of what type of team we are, what it's like to work here. We have a 3 interview process, and the last interview we have is trying to convince them not to take the job, trying to tell them going to be, because you've seen our posts, you've seen our stuff. Like sometimes people think, oh, look, this looks fun. They look cool. They do fun stuff. That's 1%. 99% of it's grinding. It's hard. It's a hard
Yeah.
work week. I push people hard and I expect the best from them. I expect them to give their effort. I push them really hard. And from that, hopefully great things will happen. But it takes a certain type of person to be able to do that. But as you say, I always talk about when I do push people hard, I'll push you right to the edge, but I'll never let you fall over that edge. Like I won't let you go over. I'll take you right there though, because stress is good. Stress helps us grow. By being put under stress, your body has to adapt, your mind has to adapt, and you can grow from that. So I don't want to push them. I don't want them to think this is a walk in the park and that they get to have fun and do things, but I also don't want them to think that they're going to burn out or that they're going to fall over and not be able to get back up again. I just want to take them right to that edge for a period of time till they have a moment of growth. And then we're going to ease back for a little bit and then chill for a bit. And then once they're okay, I'll push them again. Yes.
Yeah.
But you're right. Like they're a high performance sports team. It's a great analogy because it's the same as star athletes. You can't just constantly pushing them to the edge. Otherwise they will tear something or break something and then you've lost them for the whole time.
Yeah. And how do you so I had a boss in New Zealand, agency side, who was very much of the mindset you are, and he sometimes had belief in me that I didn't even have in myself, meaning, "Oh, I know I can do these certain things." He says, "No, you can definitely do these other 5 things as well." I know because I've employed people for a very long time. I've seen a lot of people grow in their careers, and I just know. You may not believe it, but I just know. So I'm gonna put you into a position. I'm gonna sell you into an engagement to do a certain thing that I know 100% you can absolutely deliver on,
Yeah.
even if you don't think you can. And it's almost but I felt guilty at times when I was being sold in as an expert when I wasn't yet,
Yeah.
on something that I wasn't yet an expert on, but he had faith that I'd be able to become an expert really quick in that thing because I was expected to deliver at a high level for a client engagement, and it's, "No, you can do this," and it taught me that I am actually capable of a lot more than sometimes what I think I'm capable of, and it's all about what he taught me was, it's more about the intent than the skill, meaning that if you go into it with the intent that we're gonna deliver the best work we possibly can, and even if we only know 10% more than our client, that is a value. That is a value to the client, and so all you gotta do is be 10% better than what they could do on their own, and that is enough for us to be a successful freaking company,
Yeah.
and that gave me the freedom, him saying that, just that, you only need to be 10% better than the client, and that is a value. That took all the pressure off my shoulders to be the greatest of all time at this thing. No, I don't need to be the greatest of all time. I just need to be better than the client and show them some value.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. The way I say it to my team is you just need to know one thing more than them and you're the expert in the room. If one thing more than them, then you're the expert. That's all it is. And because
Yeah.
you don't actually, when it comes to service-based businesses, we don't have to think about that client engagement as a lifelong partnership. It's not actually true. Like clients come and go, there's churn. That's normal part of business. It's okay. And they're going to be with us for
Yeah.
this period of time. And that one thing that you can do better than they can, that might finish at some point and they might go on to the next person. Ideally, what we do as a business is you get them to there. By the time they're there, you've got another one thing. And then that's the idea. So I'm going to continue to push you and grow. But you, like, I said the same thing. Like my staff are like, oh, man, I can't do this. Like, I'm not the person. I'm not the expert like you, Stan. I can't do this or whatnot. I was like, that client doesn't know these things that you do. And they're like, no. And I'm like, okay, so go on and do those things for them. And then you're good. And then you've added value, right? You're going to move all that stuff, move their business forward. Yeah. So what's the problem? Go. I know you can do it. You've proven it. We had an example yesterday, actually. I had one of our young creators, June. I say young, she's still late 20s, 29, something like that. Still pretty young, but she developed these scripts and developed this concept for a video series for an ad for the client. And she was like, oh, I'm a bit nervous about delivering it. Can you deliver it for me? And I was like, I can come in and take all the credit if you like. I can walk on in as the CEO, just walk in, wave my magic wand, take all the credit, walk out. I'll get all the applause. But you did all the work. Like you did all this. Why should I get the benefit of that? She's, oh, what if the client doesn't like it? And blah, blah, blah. I was like, it's actually really good if the client doesn't like it because then you can get closer to what they do. That's a good outcome. A bad
Yes.
outcome is just, no, I got no real opinion about it. They're not going to do that because you're going to sell it hard. You're going to go in and either get a, yep, cool, we'll go for it. or they're going to go, I don't like these things, let's change it and then let's do that. All great outcomes. So in Coach Story, we talked a bit about it, and I said, look, the client hired us because we know what we're doing. They don't know how to do this. If they did, they'll do it themselves. So go in and do it. So she's ready. I'll put my big girl pants on. She went in, she did it, nailed it. Clients, yeah, great. Let's get them approved by the spot above. How's it be? And we'll go ahead. And she came out of it going, okay, like that wasn't as hard as I thought. I actually knew what I was talking about. I wrote them. I was always going to know them better than standard. So I was the only person who could actually deliver this the same way that I did. And I think it's those moments where, as the leader, because you've been in those positions yourself, or you've seen other people do it. You have such confidence of that person doing it that you just don't let them not do it. Like you just have to force it. But also on the flip side, you have to understand if it goes wrong or something happens, you may need to come in and save the day at some point, or you may need to fix some stuff. And sometimes that does happen. Sometimes they set something on fire, they break something, and then they're going to feel like the world's ending because they've just messed it up. As long as that everything I ask the team to do and putting them outside the comfort zone, I always know I can fix it if it goes wrong. Like I never actually that far away from it. I know I can come in and save it. So I don't tell them that, but I know myself. And you can't, this is not going to end our business. No, just go do the thing. I know you're going to crush it. Tell them to. If they did for some reason, look, it happens in the past. Some of the team members might have messed something up or did something not quite right. They never make that mistake again. And so that's actually more valuable than anything.
I'm giving you permission to go in there guns blazing. I'm giving you the permission with zero consequence for the outcome.
Yeah.
Like you just got to do your best and let me worry about the outcome because it's my company and it's my business and that's my client.
Yeah.
And I contextualize that in my mind as borrowed confidence. And I was like, okay, that's what I need to be able to borrow this guy's confidence just for the next 60 minutes. And then I'm golden. I'm golden. I try to contextualize that today with my clients, with my consulting clients, and with people that I work with and teams that I lead. It's like I always kept that in the back of my mind that I want to have so much confidence that I have plenty to let other people borrow in the process. That I'm giving them air cover to do what they do best and to perform at their best, with me being that safety net there that they know, okay, Jason, if something goes horrifically wrong, I'm on a high wire, yes, but there is a safety net underneath me.
Yeah. That's so good. Oh, like I totally agree with that. That's exactly how I think about it as well. There's two parts to it too. There's sometimes where you have to tell them that they've got the safety net. And there's other times where I deliberately make them think they don't. And I do that because it depends on the person. Not everyone can handle that. There's some certain individuals like really need the safety net and they can't take it. So you got to know the individual, right? But I got certain individuals in the team where I make them feel like it's all on them for that one moment. Once I get through it, I'll talk them about it afterwards. I'm not just going to leave them hanging afterwards. But at the moment, I need them to think, no, I've got to turn up my best. I've got to turn up and I've got to nail this. And I think that's a really interesting thing for leaders to understand too, that not everyone can take it the same way. If you do that to one individual, they might just freeze. They'll never be able to do it and they'll just collapse because they think they've got no safety net. And so they'll actually make it worse than it needs to be, and then they'll freeze. And then if you go to someone who doesn't need a safety net and you tell them, hey, don't worry, I've got this, they just never give everything because they're like, I don't want to do anything wrong because I might fall. So I'll just be really bland. And actually those people are the ones that are the 1%ers in the world who can do things that no one else can do. And you need them to perform at that highest level. They are the superstars. But the superstars typically are also the people that if they feel that they don't have full control and autonomy, they'll limit themselves. They'll pull back just a little bit just to make sure that they don't fail because they're not used to failing. They're only used to winning, these people. So if they're
used to being a superstar.
This used to be a superstar. And so if they think that they have no safety net, and if they think that they have a safety net, they're just like, okay, I'll just play it safe, go through it because whatever.
Because my 80% is still better than most people's 100%.
Exactly. But then when they go, nah, it's all on me, I've got this. If I don't, I'm going to fall. And they're going, I'm going to knock this out of the park. I'm going to smash it. I'm going to let everyone know I'm the best. And I've got a couple of people, and one of the guys in my team, Nate, who he wouldn't mind me saying this, he's one of the most senior guys in our team. He's like that. Like when I'm in the room with him, we're doing a pitch. He gives me 70%. He's asked Stan here, Stan will pick it up, Stan will do it. And it's just a thing in his head. He knows, we've talked about it. He knows it. And we really tried to get it out. So now we have a bit more of a dance where we tell each other what we do. But if I'm not in the room and the other rest of the team in the room and he's the most senior person pitching to a client, the guys come out like, oh, man, you should have seen Nate. Like he did this and blah, blah, blah. And the client was doing this and he's so great and blah, blah, blah. And then I tell him, mate, what was that yesterday with Will together? He's like, you had it. So good. You had it. I'm like, yeah, but I want you to have it. And it's those things like you got to know when to let the superstar out, just let them do their thing. And then for the other people who are really great still, but they're not this, they don't have that superstar energy. There's a little bit different to them. You've got to make sure that they understand, hey, you can go give your best because I've got you if you fall.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I know that you did a recent competition in the business amongst your team members to try to grow their social following, to try to post every day, to try to, you had this, I think it was just a 30-day, like a 1-month competition to see who could grow their following the most on a percentage basis, no matter where they start from. They could have 5 followers on LinkedIn. They could have 1,000 followers. Doesn't really matter. And I wanted to ask you, how do you get people who are natural introverts? Because I'm sure that not everybody on your team is an extrovert like you, and certainly not an extrovert like me. And so, like, when I take personality tests, I'm like 98% extroverted, which is, it's so far in the extreme, it's bizarre. Like most people don't normally, they fall middle of the spectrum somewhere. I'm so far on the other end that I have a hard time having empathy for introverts, even though my sister, for example, and my father are both introverts. I still struggle to have empathy for introverts because it's so far away from my psychology that I just struggle to connect the dots there. So how do you get your team motivated for something like that, that for an introvert feels like the most freaking painful thing in the world to do is to put themselves out there for all the world to see and to critique? And I remember when I got the pressure from Gary Vee, because I've been following Gary Vee for years.
Yeah.
And I remember over a decade ago, when I first started doing content at scale, it was specifically because Gary Vee kept saying over and over again in his content, oh, you think you're a thought leader? Oh, you think you're so smart? Oh, you think you've got so much experience? That you do not get the chance or the choice to call yourself a thought leader. You only become a thought leader when you put your thoughts out into the world and you let the market decide. The market will tell you whether you're a thought leader or not. You don't get to say that about yourself.
Yeah.
And so he just kept saying that over. And I was like, okay, Gary Vee, I'm going to start putting my ideas out there in the world and open them up to critique and feedback, no matter how harsh it might be. And I'm going to learn from that, and I'm going to get better, and I'm going to improve from that. And I'm just going to embarrass myself if necessary. But that's because I'm an extrovert. I'm cool with that. But introverts are not cool with that.
Yeah. This is quite an interesting question that you asked, because most people who know me from online will say you did that. You're an extrovert, Stan. Like, how do you get your introverts to do this? And you rank the as you did in that 98% extrovert. Those same tests, I rate 98% introvert. And
wow,
most people don't realize that. And they think because they see me out, you talk to me here and I'm bringing this energy, I'm doing what I need to do, but I'm doing the job. And I think people don't see that initially. And actually, like, it's quite hard for new staff sometimes when they start with me, because they see me online, they see all the stuff that goes out. And then actually I'm quite quiet, and I quite like my alone time. I quite like deep thought. I get really exhausted by being around people. I love being around people, but it does exhaust me. It really drains my batteries. And I love being able to go home at the end of the day and sit on the couch and turn on YouTube and watching something, just chilling out. And me and my wife just sit there. And so she's an introvert as well, actually. And so we can just like say nothing to each other sometimes. It's what we love doing. And it's quite funny because we sometimes look at each other. Is this sad, or is this actually really great that we can do this with each other? But
it's really healthy.
It's really healthy. So that's actually an interesting insight, because I think introversion and extroversion becomes an excuse sometimes for people. And I think introversion and extroversion is more around energy levels and what energizes you, as opposed to, a lot of people will attach shyness to introversion. And it's not really true. It's just that I can't be bothered with you other people as an introvert. Shyness is different. I know extroverts who are shy. They love being with people, but they're shy.
Yeah.
My A is the same. She is really big, like really extroverted. You can tell, but actually like certain parts of it. But in terms of like just opening up to randoms in the team, she's not the same. It's a bit of shy level. And I've met lots of people like that. They're all on spectrums. So actually, coming back to your question, how do I get the other introverts in my team to do this? First of all is Once they get to know me, they realize, oh, Stan's actually more of an introvert than I am. So that's a key thing, because it's quite quick that people start to realize, oh, he's not as extroverted as he looks like online. He's playing a character for content. I'm turning up. I am this person, but I need to match your energy. I couldn't be here being
Yeah.
this quiet, shy guy and you having the energy you have. This would be a terrible podcast. So I need to bring the energy that you bring. And I do have that in me. It's not my normal state, right? And so they see that. So that's first of all, they go, okay, I can't use introversion as an excuse. And then the second thing I do as a team, before we even ask them to post, is I get them to talk. And we do lots of talking inside the business, like both publicly together as a group. So like morning briefings, we have a full team morning briefing where everyone has to shout other people out, share learning, stuff like that. So that goes with 15 to 30 minutes in the morning. 10X is on Friday. We have this meeting called 10X, which is 3:30 to 5 p.m. every Friday, because who really wants to do work on a Friday afternoon? So I'm going to teach you
Yeah.
something instead. I'm paying for
Yeah.
you anyway, so I may as well teach you something. And we do quite often, like at least once a month, we do like quite deep conversations with each other where we just ask, what's going on? How are we feeling? What's going on with this part? And those deep conversations allow the introvert people, sorry, to have a voice, because we have microphones, because we don't just let people get loud,
Ah.
because we have an online team. And so it was actually a really good trick. We hand a microphone around so that people can hear online. So you're not just speaking to the silly webcam mics, and instead you've got a proper mic. What that did is it meant that everyone had to shush and listen, and the introverts can put their hand up. They can do that. They can't butt in though. They don't know how to butt into a conversation. They can go, can I have the
Yes.
mic? Cool. Okay, now I can say my thing. So then what that allowed my introverts to do is to have an opportunity to speak, because they have things to say, introverts. They have lots of stuff to say. And often they've got the best things to say because they think first and then they speak. And then the introverts often speak and then they're like, oh, okay, wait, maybe I should have said that. And that enabled them to speak. And then what that did is it gave them an ability to articulate their thoughts really strongly. And then when I said, man, or when the feedback came to those introverts to say, man, that's really profound what you said, man, that's so clever, really cool. Now, well done. That was awesome what you just said there. They now go, oh, I actually have value to add to the world. I've never had a place where people heard me and they validated my thoughts. What if I shared that online as well? And one of the girls in our team, Mel, when she started, she's as introverted as they come as well. She's very quiet. But over the last year or so, she's just become one of the loudest online. And she still has the quietest voice and she speaks quietly. But when she speaks, people listen now because they know she has something good to say. And she then translated that presence in person to an online presence as well. So that, in a roundabout way, is how we got to that point where the introverts saw me. Okay, he's more introverted than I am. I'm getting taught to speak in public, which allows me to articulate my thought, and I'm getting validation that those thoughts are good. Maybe I should put them online as well, because Stan keeps telling me to. Oh, I got validation there that those ideas were good as well. Okay, I'll repeat. And then every new introvert who comes into the team does the same. And so that's the cycle we ended up building. It wasn't, and look, I feel like that. It sounds like it was a grandmaster plan. Like Stan was so smart, he did all these things put in place. It just happened that way. I'm post-rationalizing what happened. But as we thought back to it, I actually looked at the pieces and I was like, oh, that's interesting. I see how all these pieces fell into place. We did them, but we didn't do it with intention to make that happen. It's just what happened because of it.
And I think there's two things that leap out at me as you tell this story. One is, I guess if I saw my boss and he was an introvert more like me and like his personality was more like mine, I would instantly think, if he can do it, then I can do it. If he can be this guy and I see what he's like online and he's overcome that shyness or that introversion and
Mhm.
he's able to build this persona, this personal brand online, then maybe I can do the same thing because his personality is a lot like mine. So that's the first thing. Second of all, it feels like you gave them air cover and freedom. You unleashed them, able to make a mistake, say things that maybe aren't corporate speak. I have been in roles before where I
Yeah.
was specifically told, don't talk about these things online. Don't. Then I'm like, that's sorry, I do. I'm going to,
Yeah.
because that's the way that I talk about everything online. So I'm not going to stop. And so if I need to not work here because of that, then I need to leave. There's definitely this in not in all industries, but in lots of industries, businesses want to exert an extreme amount of control over the persona you present online and the content that you choose to to be interested in producing. And I feel like you have unshackled your members and said, look, I don't really care what you talk about. Just exercise the bloody muscle and talk about something that freaking interests you and put your thoughts out there.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I totally resonate with that. I don't check anything. We don't have guidelines. There's only one real rule that we have as a team on when you post, and that is if the person or people you're speaking about can't defend themselves inside your post with you, then don't say it. That's all we have.
Yes.
So like that applies to talking about another group of people in a way where you're demeaning them and they aren't in with you in that post to defend themselves in it. Or even like when we make fun of each other in our videos, that other person has to be in the video. They have to be there with us. We have to make fun of them in the video.
Okay.
So like my team can take the mickey out of me, but I have to be in it. And they've made videos before where they take the mickey out of me or other people on the team. And I said, pull it down. Pull it down. That's not okay. Because the public doesn't know. The public just thinks you agree.
They don't know that they don't know that it's banter.
They don't know there's banter. And we need to be able to. And also, because you might one day make a video about a team member and they don't realize it's banter. They also don't realize. And now they just think, oh, my team member, my colleague just insulted me to 4 million people online. That's not a great place to be. So as long as that rule isn't broken, that if you're going to make fun of people or banter or play around, and enable that person to be able to defend themselves inside the post that you do it in. And that's a pretty simple rule. Most of the team don't want to cross that. And then other than that, I say to them, every action has a consequence. So do whatever you want, but don't be upset with consequences that come from it because you chose it. No one else. You decided what you post about. You deal with the consequences. And if you aren't willing to deal with the consequence about something you post about, then don't post about it. So you can't put something out there and just ignore the consequences. Consequences are real. So between those two things, it allows the team to vet themselves. And I hope that I've got a pretty good bunch of people who work for me who just, they're not bigots. They're not going to say things that are just going to offend people. They're not those sorts of people. They're good people. And actually, they see what we post, what I post, what other people in the team post who are a bit more prolific. And they're like, I'm going to say those sorts of things too. I've got those feelings. I've got those thoughts. I want to share those sorts of, so they could have, they inform each other anyway. But yeah, 2 rules pretty much that would probably live by. Don't mock people unless they're in the content with you, and just be accepting of the consequences that come with whatever you post.
And have you been able to give them like pointers and tips maybe on those Friday sessions? Like, for example, I can say almost anything as long as I anonymize the post. So I am in client calls almost every single day. I'm seeing the most ridiculous, crazy things you can possibly imagine, as you do. I see the most crazy dysfunction. I see like all the things that you would get in a family, I've seen in business and vice versa. Because many times in B2B, it is a family business. And I'm seeing the full spectrum every day, all the way from the absolute best run businesses in the world where I'm going, wow, why do you need me? It doesn't seem like you need me because it seems like you got your ish all together, all the way down to you're so dysfunctional, I'm not even sure I can help you, and everything in between. And there are so many learnings I get out of those engagements that when I go to post online about my learnings from those engagements, as long as I anonymize them, sometimes they might know who I'm speaking about. The rest of the world doesn't need to know. But those lessons that I'm able to externalize, I just put a post up about some tiering and some KPIs and things that I look at and levers that I look at when I'm helping clients go through this process in the B2B world. And that came directly out of learnings that I've had from helping companies do exactly that thing. And all the gotchas and the pitfalls and the things to look out for, I learned the hard way by helping clients avoid those pitfalls. And so have you been able to give them like some tips, some tricks, or is it just, hey, look at my content, follow my content? That can be an example of kind of how far you can push things, because I'm always going to push things farther than you're going to push them. So as long as you don't go farther than me, you're probably bloody well safe. Or is it more of a structured learning thing?
Bit of both. So we definitely learn by example, and I'm not the only one who posts quite prolifically in the team. Obviously, some of the guys on my team on different platforms have much larger followings than I do. And so there's a bunch of us, probably 8 or 9 of us that have got quite substantial followings and prolific with our postings. So they've got 8 or 9 different people they can look at to see who are doing different ways, different models. But in those 10x sessions that we have on Fridays, the reason it's called 10x is like 10xing our thought process around whatever it is that we're doing. And some of it is around content creation. So we do a lot of coaching on like how to do great or create great content. A lot of it comes down to, especially for the guys who aren't necessarily natural content creators and might do other roles like community management or whatnot. It's teaching them structure. And so from structure and content is so important. A lot of people don't think about it when they're first coming into learning content. They just think of telling a story or doing whatever, but every movie follows a 3-act structure, or beginning, middle, and end, as simple as that, or set up conflict resolution, or headline, subheading, challenge, solution. There's all these structures that have been built because humans are pattern machines, and we understand how stories should be told. And so we teach them a lot about structure, for sure. But then when it comes to topic, that is something that we leave them to go, what is it that you're interested in? What is it that you want to share? What is it that lights you up enough to write a post and publicly put it out? That's up to you. Tone of voice, up to you. Some of the guys on the team have a far more cheeky tone of voice. Some have a far more somber or like deep thinking tone of voice. Some are very like savvy business style thinking. Nate, my team, the ECD, he's very just one word every line, like punchy, like he's an executive creative director who has dyslexia. So he's not going to write a novel, right? He's just going to be like this, get it or go. It's the thing. And so we have all these different tones of voices. And so we teach them like in a structured way on how to make content. We give them structure on how to make content. We give them examples through 8 or 9 of us who are probably the most prolific. And then we say, here's your framework. You've got freedom within inside of it. And if you want to break this framework, go for it. Break it completely. As long as you remember that consequences, right? There are consequences for doing things. And if you do stuff and that is outside of this framework, either one, the consequence might be that your content sucks. So no one's going to read it anyway. And then you're going to get disheartened that no one liked your content and then you'll stop. So that's one thing. Or two, you're going to write something or make something that people are going to give you hate for or push boundaries on, or I'm going to say to you, hey, I think that post was just a bit too far, and I'm okay to pull it down, tell people after the fact. That's only happened a couple of times. Like, it doesn't happen often. It's typically when they've written something it's usually about someone else who hasn't been able to defend.
Yes.
This is usually the only reason. But yeah, so we do a lot of structured learning, content creation. We want everyone in our team to be content creators, even if they aren't. It isn't their day-to-day role, even if they are just much more of a data entry type of person role. We still want them to be content creators. So we do a lot of content. Like, we probably talk about content creation as a team in structured learning environment ways, either in the morning session or 10x. On average, I'd say an hour a week as a team, as a whole team. There's probably little bits of it that all add up to about an hour in a week, which an hour over 40 hours does seem like a lot for someone who doesn't realize, but you probably understand that for a team of 40 every week, every single week, that's $2,000 a week in wages in that session. Because that's $100,000 a year just on learning about content creation.
Just that one thing.
That one thing. Yeah.
And I've developed a little bit of a saying for me in my content, and I'd love your take on this. Because I get asked a lot, even though I don't do coaching, I don't do content coaching, just produce my own content. I don't offer content services. I don't do any of that. But I do help with B2B businesses in terms of their go-to-market model and their play and their partnership model and all those sorts of things. So there's a little tiny bit of overlap. Usually how my clients even found me and found out that I exist, and the advice that they ask me. And even people that aren't my clients, I'll get a lot of DMs saying, how do you do this? How did you build your following on LinkedIn? How did you start your podcast? How did you XYZ? And the kind of framework that in hindsight, like you, it wasn't like I set out to be this, but in hindsight, this is how it worked out, was you have to have sharp elbows and thick skin. Those are the two things I say.
Yeah.
You will never get cut through unless you are saying something that's a little edgy, a little unique, a little bit different to what everybody else is saying out there in the mainstream content, and you're doing it in a slightly different way. If you don't have kind of your own style and vibe, they say your vibe attracts your tribe, and I'm a total believer in that. I think you'll just never get cut through, and you'll get lost in a sea of sameness. But by the same token, you better have a thick skin, because by definition, you're going to be upsetting the apple cart. By definition, you're going to be going against the mainstream narrative. By definition, like, I was super vocal because I lived in New Zealand during COVID, and I was super vocal about the bullshit of the way the government handled COVID. I'm into natural health, and I will never get vaccinated, never would, never will. I'm totally into natural health. And I was very vocal about the bullshit government and the way that they acted. And that upset a lot of bloody people in my content. And I was very careful about where I put that content out, because a lot of it was getting censored on LinkedIn, for example. So I would jump into comments and I would just maybe leave a 1 sentence comment. Oh, that's BS. Or when Jacinda said, we'll be your single source of truth, I was like, what a joke, or something like that. I was very vocal about that time. And man, that was edgy for the time. And I just was like, I'm just going to tell the truth. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be transparent. I'm ready for those chips to fall where they may. And
And
I'm ready to deal with that hate when it comes, because it's inevitable that it will.
mm,
And so that's what I think. Sharp elbows, thick skin.
yeah,
And I'd love your take on that.
no, I agree. I think you're absolutely right. I think, like I said before, you've got to understand that with the reaction as a consequence. And in your example, it was a really interesting time in the world where there were people who felt the same way you did, but there was a lot of people who didn't, and everyone was
Yes.
divided. And it was a really
Yes.
scary time for the world, right? Everyone just didn't know. That was the thing. There was no certainty around anything. And if you question anything about it, whichever side of the aisle you fell on, you had to understand that consequences would come from that. And those consequences would be the people who thought opposite to you would jump on and attack. And I think that from my perspective, when you are doing that, you should push boundaries. You should rile some feathers, and you should get people to think and react and feel something. How far you push that is dependent on how much you're willing to tolerate the consequence. And if you are okay to have it all, if you're willing to lose it all, you can do whatever.
Yes.
And then if you're willing
Yes.
to lose nothing, you can do hardly anything. And so there's
Yes.
a spectrum in that. You got to find where you fall. And so I'm probably somewhere around, if we think about doing, I don't want anything to fall to I'm okay to lose all of it, I probably sit somewhere about 75% of the way. Like, I don't talk about things that are, like, I don't talk about politics online very often because, let's be honest, I come from New Zealand, which is it's actually just a middle moderate country. There is no left and right. Actually, I heard something really interesting the other day. They were talking about US politics versus New Zealand politics. And they were saying how even our right side of the aisle sits left of the left side of the American politics, which
Totally. I think all of New Zealand politics is left.
is all left, yeah. And so I come from a country where it's all centre middle anyway. So actually, what's the point in fighting that? So I don't talk about politics. I don't talk about religion because, one, I'm just not religious. I grew up in an environment as Pacific Islander around a lot of religion, and I saw it do a lot of damage, but I've also seen it do lots of good. And so it's grey. There's no point talking about it. I don't have a strong enough opinion about it, and I don't really care to have the consequences about that argument, so I don't have it.
Yes.
But like the third sort of taboo topic a lot of people don't want to talk about after politics and religion is money. And I'm very happy
Yes.
to talk about money. I'm very happy
Yes.
to say things and tell you actual numbers and share spreadsheets and say all the things. And that riles people up, and there's consequences to that. But some people think I'm showboating sometimes. Oh, you're talking about all the money you're making. It's, yeah, you should see my bank account on the first of every month after paying payroll.
Yes.
There's no money left in it.
Yes.
They say that, or they say, oh, you shouldn't really talk about that, or you shouldn't have everything transparent with your wages inside your team. That's very good, and blah, blah, blah. And I get all this negativity. I'm okay with those consequences. I'm okay to push that as far as it goes. And if someone really asked me to see the bank balance, I'll show you. I'll show you on the first of the month at zero every month. And the day before it was $250,000. I'll show you that.
Yeah.
I'll show you what those numbers are. I'll show you the incomings. Will I show you what my clients pay? No, because that's now there. I'm showing you what they are doing. They didn't ask to be transparent about their money, but I can tell you, I can show you aggregates because that's mine.
Yes.
So that stuff I'm okay to push. And I think everyone needs to find where they are okay with those sorts of conversations and what they're willing to tolerate from a consequence. You obviously were very okay with talking about that political environment around COVID, and you're willing to deal with that consequence. I think it was the right thing for you to do, as long as you're okay to deal with that consequence. If you're not, and you did it in a way of a place of a bad place, like there were people who were doing it, they felt angry.
Yes.
They didn't want the consequence, but they didn't know how to let it out, so they just did it. And then it really hurt them later on. They shouldn't have done that. They shouldn't have. They should have housed back. They should have talked privately with people that they knew. In your case, no, I'm okay with the consequence that comes from this. Absolutely. Because what you would have done is you would have found your tribe. Because there were plenty of people who agreed with you, right? And this is interesting because I don't agree with you. Like, we have different opinions in that, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But you would have found your tribe in that, and that's good. And if I had spoken mine, I would have lost a big part of my tribe, because a lot of the people that we work with probably sat on the other side of the aisle to Jacinda, given business owners, and I would have lost a lot of that tribe, and I would have the people who I would have found wouldn't have helped me grow my business necessarily at that point in time, because I was dealing with a lot of personal
Yes.
brands at that point in time, not
Yes.
businesses, marketing managers and stuff. So I just wasn't willing to have
Risk
those
it all for that.
consequences. Yeah, it just wasn't worth it. So I'll just stay quiet and I'll talk privately about my feelings about that situation.
Yeah, and I'd love look, an hour has absolutely flown by, and you're
Yeah.
just such a good orator. And look, we've talked about things that kind of gone off script a little bit, and I don't even care. Love these kind of
Yeah.
conversations where they go down rabbit holes. I'll tell you what, one of the reasons why I pushed so damn hard to become financially independent as fast as humanly possible was exactly that reason. So you could fire me, nobody could take my income away, and nobody could put me in a financial position where I had to self-censor
Yeah.
because I was worried about my next paycheck or making a mortgage or paying my car payment or supporting my family or any of those things. I was quieter earlier in my career. I still had strong opinions, but I was way quieter earlier in my career when I was dependent on a paycheck, when I didn't own my own home, when I just didn't, I wasn't as financially independent as I am now. So by definition, I had to self-censor so that I didn't offend a boss, so that I didn't offend a market, whatever. I think that everyone should try to become financially independent as fast as humanly possible so that they can actually speak their mind, so they can actually be honest, not intentionally offensive. Like, none of my content was ever intended to hurt people or offend people or to make people angry. It was just like, this is my truth, and I'm going to be honest about that truth within certain boundaries that are not going to get me banned from LinkedIn,
Mm.
because there were people getting banned from LinkedIn at that time. So I had a couple of posts pulled down by LinkedIn, and I was like, okay, I better back off a little bit there because I can't afford to lose my
Yeah.
LinkedIn
Yeah.
account. And I did self-censor, because if 80% of my business or 90% of my business was coming from LinkedIn, which it did,
Yeah.
the reality is I couldn't afford to lose that account.
Yeah.
So I was self-censoring, but it wasn't because I was worried about my next paycheck.
No, and like you essentially just said the same thing, which is great. Like we're on the same page here, which is you tolerate the consequences that you can tolerate and handle, and you do what you need to
Yeah.
do to handle those consequences. You couldn't lose your LinkedIn. So yeah, tolerate, I'm going to change and adapt my approach because I'm not willing to tolerate that level of consequence. But I'm also
Yeah.
okay to lose these clients over here if they don't
Yes.
agree with me, if they don't, whatever. I'm okay to tolerate that. And for me,
Yes.
in my world where politics is mostly 50-50 in most countries in the nows, if I was going to isolate 50% of the population, if I was to get into that conversation, that's big enough as it is. Half the population
Yeah.
no longer a potential client. But knowing that 90% of the small business owners in the country also in that 50%, and that's
Yes.
just the way that they lean in this country, is that I was going to lose 90% of the market if I started to talk. And there's just no way I could possibly do that at the time that it was as well, especially given that at that time, I didn't really have a business, right? Like I'd only just started. I'd
Yes.
just given up my career, I'd done everything. There's no way I could tolerate that risk. I just convinced my wife to give up our 6-figure paying job, our high-rise apartment in Melbourne. We had this such a good life. I was like, you know what? We should do a startup. We should move to New Zealand. You think we should go try this thing. There was no way I was going to tolerate that risk and the consequence. And I think everyone needs to do that. I think people have to actually ask themselves before they do anything, am I okay with the potential consequence that this could cause? It might not cause that consequence. That might not,
But
but am I
but you
okay?
got to go worst case scenario and
I go
think,
risk
can I
it.
deal with the worst case scenario?
Exactly. And I'm okay to be the prickly person on LinkedIn. I'm okay to like just dig in a little bit with people and make them think. And I'm okay to do that. I have people who meet me and you're a prick. Like you're such a prick online. Like you say these things, blah, blah, blah. And I had one of my clients. She came in the first time she met me. She didn't tell me. She just seen me online. She's like, "Look, just suss this person out, come in and meet him." Oh, met me, got to know each other. She's like, you know what? And I was like, what? She's like, you're actually really such a nice person. And I was like, oh, thank you. Yeah. She's like, look, you're a prick. You're such a prick.
Yeah.
I don't really like you online. But when I meet you in
Yeah.
person, like you're actually just a really nice, genuine person. I was like, oh yeah, I'm intentionally like that on LinkedIn because I'm like you said before, I've got these sharp elbows and I'm trying to really dig in to get you to respond. If I wasn't prickly, would you be sitting here to find out if I was or not? No, you wouldn't. And now you get to know me in person. We can work together. You and I are the same type of person. And I think that's a risk I can tolerate because there's some people for every one of this particular client, there's 10 others who didn't come and see me because I was prickly.
Yeah.
But then there was 10 who did because I was prickly. So I'm okay to
Yes.
tolerate those sort of risks. And I think for you and for everyone who's listening, go for it. Just keep in mind, like, you don't get to do whatever you want in this world without consequence. And so
Yeah.
make sure you understand what the consequences that you're doing. If you're okay to do it, go all in. Like, I'm all for it. Like, I don't agree with everyone who does that, the way that what they're saying, but I agree with their approach if they're willing to handle the consequence.
Yeah, they're willing to wear the pain. Couldn't
Yeah.
agree more. Listen, what's next for the attention seeker? Look, like, I know you're a digital social agency. You help brands build brand. You help them be visible in social media. You help, I think, you also help with paid and performance media as well. You also help with content production, distribution, like content production, post production, distribution. You help brands with that. Like, you help kind of almost the full gamut of business brand building
Yep.
and what that looks like and positioning, messaging, all that kind of stuff. But what's next for you, both personally and as part of the attention seeker? What, with this age of AI generated
Yeah.
content, I personally think that in person and events is going to mean 1,000x more 5 years than they did over the previous 5 years.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get involved and create as many in-person event opportunities I possibly can because of that. Because you can't fake being on stage. You can't fake. It's even hard to fake a stream of consciousness conversation like this, although AI avatars are coming to the point where our AI versions of ourselves will be able to have a conversation without
Yep.
us even being in the room. But I sense that I feel through pattern recognition that this is a crucible moment for creators and it's a crucible moment for brands. And I think, like, for me, one of the reasons why I show up so well in platforms like ChatGPT is the sheer length of time I've been putting out content at scale. It's not just the breadth and depth of my content, but it's just simply the duration that my content has been out there. It
You.
feels, based on my rudimentary testing, that these generative AI platforms, the weighting of authority is not just breadth and depth of content, but it's how far back can we identify content from you.
Yeah.
And so duration and length of time and grit of sticking to a message feels like it matters. And so gaming it, like gaming the old
Yep.
SEO games, like gaming the generative AI engines feels much harder than it was to game an SEO play. And so I feel like you're positioning yourself and your business to take advantage of that new brave new world of AI. But what's your take?
Yeah, I absolutely we are. We use AI for almost everything that we can, even if we don't need to. We just run it through, see what it says, have an opinion or look at what we're doing, and not just from content creation, just like literally everything we ever do. It's just every single conversation we have an otter running to record the transcription, and then using that transcription in all different chat GPTs or whatever. Every email I send, I run it through just to double check I haven't missed anything, or every proposal, put it through it just to check, is there something more I could do? Every little bit we do. Thinking, all the thinking that we do, we'll have these big 2-hour creative sessions with a team. There's 5 or 6 of us that we transfer it, put it in, have it analyze what we said. Is there any insights it can find that we didn't see? Things like that. So we try to use AI as much as possible. I think as a team, I think the way we think of AI and what our unique value will be is a couple of things. The one, you landed on one, which is in-person events. I talk about this a lot. I think that in-person events, your ability to fill a room is going to be the social currency moving forward. I think that your ability to get views is great, but your ability to convert those views to people in a room is going to be the most valuable thing that we can do. I think that's always been true, actually. And you can see it in the likes of Disney, that 70%
Yes.
of their profit comes from Disneyland and Disney World, not from the levy. So
Yes.
I think that is definitely going to be the future. Ability to get people in rooms always going to be it. I think AI starts to make us more human because it actually allows us to focus on the things that only humans can really do and what we're really good at. And one of those big things is that we can reason, and generative AI has already been proven that it can't actually reason. It can only pattern
Yes.
recognize, and it can't actually
Yes.
reason. And I think that until it can, and I'm not saying it won't ever, it could, but right now it can't, at least for the near term future. I don't think that is a close thing. I think that actually is a bit further away than we think, because it can fake reasoning right now
Yes.
enough.
It can convince us it's reasoning.
It can convince us it's reasoning, which is good enough actually for the most part. And I think there's other priorities for it than reasoning, because for the most part, most people will take its fake reasoning as good reasoning, and that's enough for most people. For an agency like ours, we can rise above it by focusing on our ability to reason and using it to do a lot of heavy lifting. And that focusing on the reason is what allows us to excel with it. So that's another big thing that we're focusing on as an agency. But more so than ever, it's the actual thing for us into the future is to focus on our ability to get attention. And we know that because that the platforms will change. We're coming to probably, I shouldn't say we're in a spot where the attention economy, the interest algorithms are like peaking. They're really good. If we know anything about the past, the platforms won't let us have that forever. There'll be something else will happen. So we have to make sure we're good and we know where that's going to go. But probably what's even better is just have such a brand big enough that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if the algorithms change and we can't get the organic reach we could because our brand's so big. So pushing our attention as far as we can is going to be huge. Our goal is always to just continue to grow the follower base or the viewership and push that as far as we can. That enables us to do whatever we want into the future. And as and when we need to pivot, we can, if the world changes.
Gives you optionality, right?
Exactly. And so that's us. Like for me personally, like my goal is to grow my brand. I grew my brand originally from LinkedIn to grow the business. That took us to about 12 people. I then brought Joni in to help us bring the rest of the brand up to speed. That grew us to 40. I now think to get us to 100 is going to require my brand again. So we're now reinvesting. I got a social media manager that's just on me. And I've actually increased my personal team to 3 or 4 now, I think it is, who work around me. So I am slowly trying to increase that team around me because I think my personal brand will take us, will get us from 40 to 100, not the Taz brand, and continue to build that out. There's things like this, the 100 podcast challenge that I've got, which my social media manager reminded me that I now have to do 3 a week till the end of the year to hit that target. So good luck with me. I'm also putting a book out. I'm running events. I got 4 in-person events that we're running next week that we've got people coming to. So I'm just doing as many as possible, building my brand. And hopefully one day the goal is long-term to have a brand so big that the agency is just an engine room. And actually I get to play entrepreneur more. I can go start other businesses that I really want to do and go play.
Yep. So the Gary V model, effectively.
Exactly.
Where he's got his own IP, he's releasing his own products, he's releasing his own merch, and then he puts it through the sausage factory and his team can promote the crap out of all that.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly the goal. Because I'm the ideas guy. I like ideas. And at the moment, at one point in time, the agency my ideas won't be that exciting because it's a beast. It just does what it does and it acquires more clients and does it. There's only so far you can grow it. Well, there's only so far you can grow the scope of what you deliver. You might have to change slightly because of technology. That won't excite me as much anymore as it will to start up a little startup product company or whatever we at the ground.
Or acquire a company that does terrible marketing.
Yeah.
And be like, okay, what is that? They call it the silver tsunami. You've got all these business owners that are 50s, 60s, 70s retiring and that their kids don't want to take over their businesses and they just want to exit. And they have never done real proper marketing. And all of a sudden you can acquire these businesses as a distressed asset, overlay your marketing prowess over the top of that, and boom, all of a sudden light it on fire, right?
Especially in New Zealand with our property sector being what it is and how much it owns New Zealand. There's a lot of boomers who are going to retire in the next 10, 20 years who own businesses adjacent to property, trade services, actual property companies, whatever. I think there's a lot of them, and in New Zealand especially, where they just don't do it's not professional.
No.
There is no marketing. There's no nothing. I would love to buy all of those at some point into the future and then make it bigger, like a conglomerate of it. I think there's a massive opportunity.
A roll up.
Yeah, a roll up. Exactly. So yeah, you're exactly right. I'd love to do that.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Listen, this has been absolutely fascinating. I'll drop a link to your LinkedIn profile in the show notes as well as a link to the Taz website. Other than that, how do you like people to reach out and have a conversation about all things digital, social, and marketing?
Yeah. For me personally, LinkedIn. Yeah. Touch me on LinkedIn. That's where I probably spend most of my time. Otherwise, our newsletter, Your Attention Please, is like my favorite piece of content we actually create, funnily enough. It's such a great newsletter. The team who create it, I don't do a lot anymore these days, let's be honest. I love that. So if you want some conversation around marketing, I'd suggest that. Or me personally, LinkedIn.
Absolutely love it. Now, listen, as we do come down to the end of our time together, this is where I get to flip the script. I get to hand the microphone over to you. I get to let you ask me one question, any question you like. It could be personal or professional. Mr. Stanley Henry from The Attention Seeker, what is your question for me today?
Oh, put me on the spot.
You're good under pressure, though, remember?
Yeah. I wouldn't mind turning the same question on you quickly, like on your thoughts around where do you think where I should, as a business, spend our time with AI? Like, where do you think is an opportunity I'm missing that I didn't say already?
Look, it sounds like you're using it everywhere that you possibly can at the moment. Yeah, I think that, and I can only speak from the experience I've seen emerge and the pattern I've seen emerge in B2B over the last 6 to 12 months because specifically of generative AI, and there might be a corollary or some sort of parallel in your business that maybe you can take away from this. So historically in B2B and particularly B2B e-commerce, you had to do a lot of work around adoption planning and adoption research before you went and made a massive investment in digital commerce, because you wanted to make sure that you were building something your clients would actually use, as opposed to something that would sit on the shelf and they would go, no, I like Bob or Jane, my account managers. I'm just going to pick up the phone to call them anyway. You go and spend $300,000 on this flash new B2B website, sees no adoption, right? Bad outcome, very bad outcome. The coming and the mainstreaming and the cost structure of multimodal AI has meant that new technologies are bridging that physical digital gap to the point where we no longer require our customers to change their behavior to adopt our digital commerce technology. And I'm going to give you one example of that. So historically, in the B2B world, somebody might email a customer, might email a PO, a spreadsheet or a PDF of a PO across to their account manager and say, hey, can you process this order for me? That person keys it into the ERP and out goes the order, okay? Or they request a custom quote, or they request all these different things from their account manager that then physically has to do that thing, maybe send a zip file across to their customer, whatever it is. Now with multimodal AI, because we can interpret images, we can interpret PDFs, we can interpret spreadsheets, we can interpret scribbles literally on a piece of jib that somebody takes a photo of it and sends it across. There's these middleware systems that intercept those communications and then automatically map those directly into the commerce system as if the customer logged into the portal and did it themselves. Request pricing, check stock, how long is it going to take to get to me, what's my MOQ, I'm going to place a custom quote request. Basically, we can interpret all this inbound information and the customer can continue doing things exactly the way they always have, but all of a sudden now we are able to leverage this investment in our commerce technology as if they had adopted it fully end to end.
Yeah.
And that to me is super exciting. And I'll give you another example of where I'm using generative AI a lot to summarize like 100-page PDF, or when I'm doing research on behalf of a client, I can upload gigantic freaking files to ChatGPT and I can say, can you give me a 2-paragraph summary of this document? Or can you find, so when I was looking for a specific piece of information in a PDF, historically, I'd have to open up in Reader. I'd have to do Control F. I'd have to look for a keyword, or I'd have to look for statistics. I'd have to find the page. I'd have to copy and paste it out, and I'd have to reference the document. Now I can upload that document to ChatGPT, and I can ask it, where in this document can you pull out this exact piece of information for me, summarize it, and tell me which page it's on so I can reference it?
Yeah.
And so, and I learned the level at which ChatGPT can do certain things by just playing with it and testing it and trying to break it. So I was trying to buy a dirt bike, and I've used this example on the podcast before, and this may be of interest to you, maybe not. I was trying to buy a dirt bike. I was looking at Facebook Market. There was a lot of dirt bikes on there that had the model and the make, but not the year of bike. So I could download the image of the dirt bike. I could upload it to ChatGPT, and I could say, what dirt bike is this?
Yeah.
And it would tell me, based on these 53 characteristics of this bike, it looks like it's this make, this model, this year. Oh, and by the way, it's got these aftermarket parts and components and everything else. And so it would tell me that because it can ingest data of any type and any format, and it can give you a meaningful output of that, a meaningful summary of that.
Yeah.
And so I think that kind of stuff is so wildly game changing that it has allowed me with Descript and with some of the other AI tools for creators, it has allowed me to repurpose my content in ways that before multimodal AI, I wouldn't have been able to. And that is super exciting for me.
Cool. That's cool. Love it. No, that's awesome. Thank you. Appreciate it. That's great.
No worries. Listen, Stanley, it's been a joy. It really has. I appreciate you carving out some time for me today. And I wish you every success with the attention seeker. And I can't wait to speak to you again soon, my friend.
Thank you so much, Jason. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. And yeah, awesome conversation. Love it.
If you'd like to get mentored by Jason for free, head over to greenwoodconsulting.net, scroll to the bottom of the page, and click Get Mentored by Jason.